For the past 4 months, 3, 4 months, we ain't been sleeping in the same bed,
Yeah, I
right?
sleep
Yeah,
downstairs.
and it wasn't like a conscious decision. You crying? Why you crying?
I think it's just made me feel like unconsciously kind of bad
Wow.
because I know it's something that I do enjoy. I do enjoy sleeping by myself at night. I enjoy that personal time for myself. I guess sometimes I feel like I may be taking something from you. And that's why I make sure that I'm with you when you fall asleep. Acknowledging it's something that I do need. And I didn't know that I needed it
Right.
until it started
Right.
happening.
Organically.
Yeah, because I was just having so many night sweats and uncomfortable, and then I would start my cycle, and it was just like, okay, I do need room to just not have the eye.
Yeah.
That's what made me
Wow.
tear up is the
Wow.
onlooking eye. And for the longest time, like I said, I've always been afraid of being seen, even though people always see me. I've never allowed anybody to see the truth of who I am, ever. Everybody has gotten the version of Candace that I've wanted them to get. The only person that's ever been able to see the truth of who I am is you. How exhausting is it to the persona that can't hide? There's nowhere to go. And sometimes
Wow.
hiding isn't just about like protecting something. It's just like, even like if you're in a crowded room, some people go to the bathroom just to catch their breath.
Hey.
Some people go sit in a car just to catch their breath and just have that sensation of alone time. And I felt like I didn't want to compromise my need for that. And I also didn't want to rob you of the intimacy that you deserve and that I actually want to give. So it has been difficult for me to fully accept that it's okay, even knowing that it's okay, knowing that it's a need, but I haven't wanted to take that experience from you, even though I know that you're okay with it.
The fact that we able to do that and not trip either way, and like I said, I feel happy that you get to have that space. So you ain't got to worry about Doc's feeling away. You ain't got to worry about taking nothing from me. And the moments that we do get to fall asleep together, it mean that much more. The moments where you make sure you fall asleep with me before you mosey downstairs at 2 o'clock in the morning when I'm still knocked out, it mean more. So you ain't got to trip about that. No pressure on that. We could do this for the rest of our life if that's what's called for.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
You believe me? You
Yes.
trust me?
Yes.
Okay. My nigga, everything is love. But that on anything I love.
Okay, this was a beautiful interaction with this couple. And I think what's important to know and what I've taken from this and what I've experienced is that it's actually good, no matter who you are, when you're in a relationship, it's always good to have time for yourself. And it doesn't always have to look like this. It don't always have to mean sleeping in different bedrooms and all of that. It's literally what works for you and your partner. Sometimes it could look like solo holidays. Sometimes it could look like this. It could look like sleeping in separate bedrooms sometimes. Sometimes it could look like, I don't know, going out, being social with the boys, going out being social with the girls. It could look like, oh, I'm going to leave the house for you. It could look like a short getaway in the same city, but just go to a hotel. Either way, I believe it's so important in relationships to get time for yourself. And whatever way it works in your relationship, it should probably be done because no matter who you're with, I don't care how much love you got for someone. Yeah. When you're constantly stuck with someone, you can lose your own identity and it can cause stress on your brain and it can result into outbursts, meltdowns, or whatever, and arguments. You know what I'm saying? But if you always have that space to be able to like go and do your own thing every now and then, you give yourself a chance to you give yourselves a chance to miss each other. You give yourselves a chance to reboot. You give yourselves a chance to process. So like if you've been through something and or something's happened and you need time to process. When you're alone, that's the best time to do so. So I really do believe that it's always important to take time out for yourself to save you from going mad, because I've spoke about this before on my channel. Relationships are not easy, marriage is not easy, and you have to be able to do things to manage it rather than go down the ugly route of fighting, not getting along, and worse off breaking up or divorce. But there's ways to manage things, and there's ways to survive all of that. And I think that the biggest one is making time for yourself. So yeah, I totally agree with this. It's so good how the husband so supportive of her, and she was able to be vulnerable and explain how she truly feels about it. And that's what it's all about. It's all about communication. Yeah.
Izzy, racism doesn't exist in the UK. Well, I think we can probably all eat our words on that one. But let me tell you how prevalent it is, not only in the UK, nationally, socially, locally, but also in the workplace, in hiring processes. Bear in mind, this is with this face present in the room as the hiring manager. So we were interviewing for client services roles at a company that had global customers, like genuinely global customers all over. A large part of their customer base was American. And we interviewed this guy who had a Nigerian name, first and last name, and he was absolutely excellent. Absolutely, he blew me away. He was so charming, he was so good, he was excellent. He had the experience, he interviewed so well, he was the epitome of excellence. And he left the room and was chaperoned out to reception, etc. And I caught up with my boss at the time. I had like 2 or 3 bosses kind of thing. And I said to him, wow, he was fantastic, can't wait to offer him. And he was like, no. And I was like, why? And he said, because our customers in America won't like the sound of his name. I was like, I'm not sure about that. But yeah, his name's not going to work, so he's not going to get the job. Like, we don't need to talk about it anymore. Right, okay. So I left shortly after, as you can imagine, because the only difference between me and him is that my name sounds quite English, and his didn't. Like, that is the epitome of racism. And I just thought I'd share that little anecdote, if not to demotivate, but just to let you know that it's rife, and I won't hear anything otherwise.
Oh, here we go again.
Hear that, guys? So it is not false when we say it's hard to get jobs out here because of racism and all of that. We're not capping. This stuff is out here, and this is from a HR recruiter. This is a recruiter, and I think it's a shame because it's not balanced. So when we're all judging each other, and women are saying certain things about black men, look at the market we're dealing with. This is UK. I'm sure it's similar in the Western world, like America. This is what we're dealing with out here. So not only do we as a community put pressure on ourselves, we're also getting pressure outside where it's harder for us to get roles, especially if you have an ethnic background and you have a cultural name. If you have a surname, most of us Nigerians, we have like African names, real Nigerian names. Yeah. Already you can see that puts recruiters off. Like, they just think about not wanting to even try and pronounce. Also, they paint a picture of who the person is by their name. So it's not fair at all. And to me, it's like, what do we do with this now? Do we play the game and change our surnames to give ourselves a better chance? Or do we stand strong in our name and believe that we are worthy and we are who we are? And both seem right to me. I understand people that change their name because at the end of the day, life is hard out here. You gotta do stuff with your life. Do you know what I mean? And if your name is holding you back, what's the big deal in changing it? But at the same time, names have meaning. Families carry weight in back home, and you wanna come through as you are. You wanna represent as you are, who you've been called. There's power in that. So it's crazy to feel the need to have to change that. Do you know what I mean? The last thing I'll say on this matter is big up the people that, despite all of this, they're still able to land good jobs and they're doing well in their career. All the black people, to be precise, because there's so much working against us. So to overcome that, that's a skill and talent in itself. And I just believe we have to work harder. So that means you're working well, working smart. Do you know what I mean? But I also feel like for those people, this is why investing back in the community is so important, because in the wider world, the Western world, like there's not that, there's opportunities, of course, but there's still people trying to keep us at a certain level. So if there are people within our community that make it and that do well, I just feel that the mindset, if you want to build real generational wealth, we want to build our family and we want our future kids to have better opportunities and more chances, then I think it's important to invest back in the community and do things that will, you know, move us up there. I know it's crazy because obviously there's stereotypes with black people and some people don't help themselves, let's be honest. But there's still a lot of people that are willing, that have drive, but are just kind of stuck. I know this, I've been there. It's not easy. Do you know what I mean? So for those type of people that are more than willing and are just not landing on the right opportunities or whatever, they could do with that extra help or push or information, you know, to get further in life. So yeah.
One of the things that frustrates me so mightily about social media is how this cult of trauma focused self-victimization and what it's done to our collective resilience capabilities. We are just not as resilient as we could stand to be. As a social media content creator, I'm telling you, you want the golden ticket, speak to people's pain, speak to people's misery, and you don't have to have solutions. Just keep spinning it. Use the word narcissist. Blame someone they have conflict with, like a parent or an ex. Don't give people the room for self-reflection. Don't give them the opportunity to think, how am I involved in this? Label everything as victim blaming. Police the tone. Pathologize everything they do. We've been spamming the button. The people who they have vilified and turned into enemies are just people with a difference of perspective sometimes that they don't have the tolerance to sit in and adjust to. People have become incredibly self-centered and self-entitled to the point where they think that their reality is the reality and they don't want to take on a different perspective that makes them challenge their deeply rooted thoughts and beliefs. We're using all this healed language. I'm in my healed era. I'm working on myself. But it's just lip service. We're not doing the work. Please don't conflate talking about the work and how good it feels to talk about the work with doing the work. Because if you talk about healing enough, you feel like you're healing, but you're talking about it. If you aren't having things that are challenging, actively challenging your perspective and helping you reframe your thoughts and helping you interrogate the inner narrative you have about what happened, how it happened, why it happened in a positive and constructive way, then I would argue you're not healing. You're just thinking.
Going off the back of this video, it's so true because, you know, we have so much information out there now, and the internet, social media, it will soothe you. I've already spoken about how the algorithm can cater to your emotions and validate you no matter what you're going through. You know, if you're having a relationship issue with a partner, you know, or even with family members, and you talk about it, or I don't know if algorithm can now even read minds, but if you do any kind of research on your phone about a certain issue or you talk about it to someone, the phone's listening, taking in that information. Before you know it, you go on social media, you see something relating to it, and it will probably pander to you and your feelings and make you feel validated. And that is quite counterproductive for true healing and getting over trauma, because what is happening and what tends to happen is people validate themselves, and then don't see where they go wrong. And this guy said it. I think it was interesting how he said sometimes it's not that you're going against someone that has done you wrong. Sometimes it's just a different perspectives on life or boundaries or whatever, and then that can cause clashes. So not everyone is evil, not everyone is the villain. Some people just have a different mindset. Some people have different perspectives, different set of boundaries. You know what I mean? Some things can fly over there but can't fly over here. Do you know what I mean? So I think those are things to take into consideration. And oh shit, my car started rolling. Hold on. Yeah, so those are things to take into consideration when we think about truly healing. So it gets worrying because it feels like we're getting so sensitive. You can't do anything in this day and age. There's a word for every type of personality, and more times is negative. And soon, if we all go by this, none of us are going to have relationships because people will do you wrong. You know what I mean? No one's perfect, and some people just need to learn. But if we're hearing a certain word like narcissist or anything like that, and then in your mind you feel, okay, I just have to cut them off. I'm living my life. I'm healed. I need to move past this. If we go with that mindset with every single person we encounter a little problem with, none of us will have relationships. We'll all be lonely people, and that's what society. That's what it feels like. That's happening in society. I feel like social media and the internet is giving people a full sense of connection and love with air, with wireless connection, rather than real life connection. Do you know what I mean? So I thought it was quite interesting in what he said, and I think what I take from this is people need to stop just finding excuses, and or even if you go therapy, wherever you get your new terminology from and you figure things out, it doesn't necessarily mean those things should just be used to block people out or to judge people. It means you should have a better understanding of certain things and why things happen. And if you heal, yeah, more time when you heal, you're actually able to deal with more because you don't let certain things affect you so deeply. But if you don't heal, yeah, you're still gonna have your triggers. You're still gonna, well, you can always have triggers, but you won't be able to deal with your triggers. You won't have the emotional maturity to be able to handle stuff in life. Whereas if you're truly healed, most things will be a walk in the park and you'll be able to deal with every emotion you encounter. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, man.